welcome back to the Green Means Go channel. It's your host, me. And I'm going to cover the purpose of this video in the first 45 seconds. So that way, if you don't want to watch me rant and ramble for the rest of the time, talk about things that are on my mind. We're going to talk about this drink right here that I've poured myself, of which I poured myself. I poured up that, pour up, drink, headshot, drink, pass out, drink, faded, drink. I want to answer your questions as it relates to sports betting. Now, these can be general questions about plus EV, about arbitrage, about value, about bankroll management, about unit sizing, any of that, or it can be personal questions. What is your baddest beat? What is your most memorable moment sports betting? When you first started sports betting, what are some errors you made that you would redo? Anything like that. It can be any side, more technical stuff or more personal stuff. Put it in the comments. And the reason is, for the last 6 months, I've had questions kind of pop into comments on random videos. And I don't always do a good job at getting on and responding in depth as they should be responded to. So this video is going to be like a catch-all. So if you've put a comment on one of my videos and I've missed it, first of all, I'm sorry. Second of all, put it in the comments right here. I'm going to go through the comments of this video in about a week, and I'm going to pull them out. I'm going to put it on the screen, and I'm going to answer them. And I'm going to chapter it all down and below. So you can just scroll through and be like, I know the answer. Oh, I know the answer. Oh, this sounds interesting. Let me watch this piece. I know what plus EV is. Oh, this was the worst beat. I got to hear about that, right? So I want to make this more structured as a way to answer your questions. And, I had a lot of self-doubt. My biggest thing when making YouTube videos is to think of all the reasons why it's a bad idea. I don't usually think about an idea of a video and then go, okay, why are people going to like this? What I do is I think an idea of a video and I think, how are people going to be negative about this? Why am I not qualified to answer this? What are people going to say about me if I approach this topic? That's not good. I'll fully recognize that if I had a therapist, I know they would tell me that is not a good way to live. So I'm working on that. And so I think a step for me to work on that is to come forward and say, I'm answering your questions. And a lot of it is self-doubt because there are people who are infinitely smarter than me when it comes to sports betting and are more qualified to answer your questions. But are they willing to? And that's what I said to myself. I don't like to approach anything with arrogance because I just don't think that's the best way to operate. But I have been doing this full-time for the last 2 years and really full-time, part-time for the last 4 years. And I have some more experience outside of that. So I do know some things and I likely know more than some people who watch my videos and may want to ask questions in a place where they are not going to be laughed out of a Twitter thread or a Reddit thread. I think the gambling community is pretty toxic in terms of gatekeeping, in terms of I know this, you don't, in terms of their lack of ability to patiently explain through concepts and ideas. So I am going to offer my audience, whoever that is, grace in you guys ask me questions. And if you guys will offer me grace in how I explain them, then we'll be good. So that's the purpose of this video. I want you to comment below any questions you have about gambling. I'm going to aggregate them and I'm going to answer them. You can leave if you want. But if you want to hear about my drink, we have one of those soda shops in town. It's relatively new. The cup looks like this, pretty low budget. Don't even have a brand on here. Just a simple, they're cutting corners, and I kind of respect it. And there's a brand called Swig, like a main brand. What do you call that? Like a company, like a business. Do they have a ticker symbol? Swig. Who are they owned by? A franchise. You guys have heard of Swig. The Mormons do that stuff. They also do soaking and what else do they do? Soaking and they rock the bed. That's what, if you've never heard of this, Mormons will penetrate, okay? Sexually penetrate. And then they'll have somebody shake the bed because they think, if there's no movement, if there's no physics, if they're not actually thrusting, then it's not really sex. I don't know if that's real. I've heard of it. It sounds like sex to me. But hey, I don't know. I don't know much about that. So we have one of these soda joints. Hold on. And My wife wanted a soda, and I picked one up for her, and I struggle there because I have not had soda in 16 years prior to this last 6 months. From 8th grade until age 29, I didn't drink soda. It was a bet with a friend. We've talked about it on the show. I actually released a video where I tried soda for the first time after 16 years, see if I could identify the flavors. You can find it if you search my videos. But I've been back on my soda game. I've been back on my bubbles. And I'm a diet guy. I know people scoff at that. Well, it's no better for you. Oh, it's just as bad as the fully leaded stuff. I don't agree. I think 60 grams of sugar in 12 ounces is unheard of. And it is definitely not good for you. So I'll take the risk on the aspartame. Please and thank you. Love the aspartame. Yes. So I've been a big diet guy. Diet Coke, Coke Zero, Pepsi Zero Sugar, Diet Pepsi, Diet Cherry Pepsi. Usually is what I go for, one of those 5. And so I go into this place, and the menu is huge. I mean, it's like this board, but flipped vertically, and then there's 3 of them, and the font's like this. They have it organized well, but it's like I always want certain squirties, little squirts that are with like the pops I don't want, and then the pops I do want don't have the right squirts. And I know if I went up there and I said, hey, could I do, you know what, and I customize it, because they're not pre-made sodas. They're back there squirting all day. They would squirt to my liking. Right? If they're squirting, they're soaking. She's squirting, I'm soaking, I'm shaking that bed. Somebody make that a song. I'm sorry. I don't know if I have issues, like anything going on. I'm getting warm. So I just have too much anxiety to like make customizations at a restaurant or at a place like this. So my wife gets what she gets. It's called a fluffy Coke, Coke Zero, and it's quite literally marshmallow fluff that they apply to the cup. Like they scoop it and they spread it around, and then they put Coke Zero in it. It's okay, but I wanted to try something new today, and I saw they had like an addition. Like their menu had been taped over, and they added something new, and it was Dr. Pepper, toasted marshmallow, and vanilla cream. And I'm like, well, that sounds like something I would like. I'd prefer it to be Coke Zero or Diet Coke over Dr. Pepper. And I don't know why we're adding vanilla cream to soda. But if we're doing it, I'd like to be involved, and I'd like to have an opinion on the matter. So I went up there. I ordered my wife's drink. I ordered that drink. I said, could I please do Diet Coke instead of Dr. Pepper? Like I was like inconveniencing. She looked at me like, of course, like, yeah. And I was like, oh, cool. Yeah. And then the thing popped up, do you want to leave a tip? And it's like, I can't, like, it's so bad. Why are we doing that? Especially at places where we really, I don't know if we should be tipping. She just took my order, right? And they just made the drink. I tipped her $1 on a $7 order. Probably cheap, probably too cheap, but I felt the pressure, social anxiety again. And so I got a drink of it, and it was entirely too strong. It tasted like iced coffee, like it just had this flavor that I was drinking iced coffee, but it was bubbly. But I kind of liked it, but I didn't think I should. But it was too strong. So I came home. This is the moral of the story. I'm sorry. It was in this cup. I dumped it into this bigger cup, and I watered it down. Or I coked it up, one or the other. If you can't be watered down, be coked up. That's my motto. Diet coked up. Should clarify. So yeah, that's where my head's at. My second head is at the fact that I have been struggling, and this is the last thing we'll talk about. I'm going to take my socks off. I'm getting a little warm. I've been struggling with content in a way. A couple reasons why, and I don't want this to be like a pity party. It's not the point of it. It just some days I feel really good about making videos, and I have high hopes and, confidence. And other days I don't. And it's something I'm working through, because at the end of the day, at the end of the year, at the end of my life, I want this. You guys know I talk about this all the time. I want this to be what I do. A couple things that maybe are impacting that are, one, football's over, and that's kind of a big sport for me to talk about. Baseball's coming up, which I think could be good. Basketball's on, but I struggle because I don't pay attention. Like, I know a lot about basketball. I know a lot about current basketball, but like the NBA season is just so overwhelming. There's so many games. It's just hard for me to, every game doesn't matter in the way that it does for NFL. So it's hard to talk about, trades happen. I don't know. We might do some NBA content. MLB, we'll figure something out for that. We've done some gambling, just assorted gambling videos, which I enjoy doing. So that's one thing. The second thing, as it relates to my personal life and money, which we'll talk about after another really over-the-top slurp. It's not too bad. Coked up. Way too strong. Way too strong previously, but coked up, not too bad. The other thing is this. And again, if you're going to be negative, if you're going to be, you can offer advice or wisdom, that's fine. But if you're going to say something that's not ultimately helpful, even if you're being like, here's the deal. I wouldn't even consider being just real and honest, even if it's kind of blunt. You can say that stuff. I'm just meaning like intentionally rude. Stop watching. You can be blunt. So the way my life has worked after I quit teaching is I was still sports betting and making enough through arbitrage and plus EV and promos that financially, I was making more than I was making teaching. Okay, so we'll just say that, right? Teachers aren't paid a lot, so we can start there. But it's gotten to a point, and so my plan was this YouTube thing is going to eventually, like, I'm making all this money gambling. I'm making no money YouTube. And like, I knew eventually the gambling money would get less. And, hopefully the YouTube would move up and then they would just switch places. Like, that's in my head what was happening. And it was a perfectly linear timeline. And that's not how life is. And we're at a point where the money I made sports betting is getting difficult. And I know there's ways, guys. We talk about it all the time. I don't have, we can talk, if you want to ask, we're not going to talk about that. The point is, the way that I typically make money, which is arbitrage and plus EV, is getting less. And I know there are avenues around it, and I know I could grind it out. I don't have what it takes right now to put in the effort it would take to sustain what I have been betting. And YouTube and everything is not, they haven't crossed the line. We'll just say that. So I feel more stress about this. Not about like making the videos necessarily. Like, I don't feel stressed about this, but I feel stressed to keep this, to hurry it up, right? And I can't hurry up time. And so I just kind of get in my own head about that, which I hope is understandable to some people. And like, when I process it, when I verbalize it, it's like, relax, like you're fine financially, like you're okay. Like, this isn't, you could get a job if you need to, but you don't need to. Like, you can still follow this dream, so I shouldn't even worry about it. But those are things that I think about. Those are things that are in my mind and stop me from making videos, which is counterproductive and counterintuitive. The other thing is that TikTok pays so much more. And I don't want to throw away YouTube for TikTok, but just to tell you, without telling you, in January, I made 6 times the amount of money that I make on YouTube. In other words, the last 6 months of YouTube paid me what 1 month of TikTok paid me, which is great. That's not a complaint. But I always see these people on TikTok and they have YouTube links in their bios, like people like I'm interested in, or like I'm like, oh, I like this person's TikTok content. I wonder what their YouTube is. And I'd go to their YouTube and they wouldn't post videos. And for like the longest time, I'm like, why don't they post videos on YouTube? And I think I get it now. Now that I'm finally monetized on TikTok, it's like, yeah, TikTok isn't paying. There's a huge hawk right there. I mean, this sucker is thick. Holy cow. I don't want to move my camera because I don't want you guys, I don't want to. All right, listen. Yes, I took my shirt off, guys. It gets so my upstairs is so well insulated. And I also need to like make a distinction at the parts of these videos because this is a different part because I'm recording this secondly because we just talked about the hawk, right? And I want to share this because it's important to me. So, my aunt believed in me, and this relates to my like spiral I just had. My aunt always was one when I was a high schooler and I made YouTube videos. She would be the first to watch it. When I had my podcast with a friend, she'd be the first to listen to it. She always texted me about it. Like my aunt loved me, right? My aunt passed away unexpectedly. She was the youngest, like as my mom's sister, youngest of the family, a little over a year ago. And she was an avid birder. She loved birds, which is weird to me. She also loved to crochet, less weird. And so we would talk about our hobbies, mine, sports betting, and hers, birding, crocheting. And one of the last conversations that we ever had before she passed away was how, I made some comment about her selling her crochet stuff because she makes some elaborate stuff. I mean, I don't want to show you my nipples, because that's why I'm potentially sitting up. I think YouTube might demonetize me if I show you my nips. My aunt like made this, right? She crocheted this, right? I was like, dude, you gotta sell this stuff that you make. She's like, nobody wants this junk. At least you can make money doing your hobby, which at the time, sports betting, she knew I did that. And I hadn't really started making videos yet. I actually had started, barely just started. I mean, I was just like 2 or 3 months into this channel. And long story short, that last conversation I ever had with her really stuck with me. And in a way, a lot of what I do on this channel is motivated by her, and thinking, life is so short. All those trite, cliche things, yada, yada. I don't really love cliche things, but there's a lot of truth in the fact that my aunt was one, her last conversation was about really me and pursuing what I loved in the sense that she loved something and she couldn't even get over the fact of how it would be received by other people. And therefore she was hung up on that, which is exactly what I just talked about on this video. And this hawk visits me. Look, I was once spiritual, religious, and believed in the signs and believed in, there's no such thing as a coincidence, all that stuff. I don't really believe in that anymore. But I think there's value in things that may be a coincidence if they help remind you of things. So here's why it's important. I was just talking about how I was discouraged about this channel and the hawk that we literally call Aunt Beth shows up, right? I see this hawk often. I live in the city, but this hawk comes around whenever I need it to. And you may not believe me, but it is often in my moments of frustration or self-doubt, which happen a lot, that the hawk shows up. And usually it's out front. I usually be sitting on the couch and I'll see it hit the power line above and it'll watch for some food in my yard and I'll watch it for a little bit. He's still out here. And so to me, it's a reminder that, it's my Aunt Beth coming to visit me while I make this video saying, keep your head up, keep grinding, keep doing what you love. And all things that are supposed to be will come in time. Not where I was expecting this video to go, but it's where we are. So I have to edit this because I got to insert it in. I didn't want to edit that video. Okay, that's all right. Off we go. Have a good day. Have a good night. I love you guys. We're going to figure it out. We're going to keep going. I mean, we're going to look back, guys, in 5 years and be like, remember when Green Beans Go was a maniac? He's just kind of like, not a manic. He was just like in his head. He was overthinking everything. And now he's like a household name. And you guys are going to be the ones that stuck with me. And you will be remembered. And I love you. And we'll see you then. we'll see you next time, but we'll also see you in 5 years, hopefully. Okay, bye.